But first up at the top of the show, let's invite my next guest for her very first appearance on the show. Her name is Alex Nestor. She is an investigative fellow at Parents Defending Education Action, and she's joining us right now. Good morning, Alex. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So I saw this story yesterday. A friend of ours sent it over. A shock to see something like this happening in Missouri, but I guess I should be less so because of all the news that's coming out. Children's Hospital advised school district not to require disclosure of students' chest binding to parents. What's the background on this?
So, Austin, I love that you bring up the point about, why is this happening in Missouri? And really, this is happening everywhere. So what we found from the results of this public records request is that there's a gender clinic, a pediatric gender clinic in St. Louis, and the doctors there advised a school counselor to, not require that parents are informed if their kid uses a chest binder at school. The counselor was inquiring about a few different things specifically related to kids using chest binders at school. One was, whether parents should be notified. And another question was whether, other teachers should be notified if they're wearing them in class, specifically gym class. And the counselor admitted that there had been several cases of kids wearing chest binders in gym class and then fainting from them. And in this case, the doctor at the pediatric gender clinic in St. Louis said that the district should not require that parents are informed when this happens. The bottom line here is from us, we think parents should be informed about all decisions related to their kids, especially in this case where kids' health has been on the line at school. Parents should be informed, and it's really unconscionable to exclude them from these conversations.
Alex, how did we find out about this story?
So we have been filing some public records requests into school districts across the country, and specifically related to their connections with transgender centers. We have found that the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia has given trainings to teachers across the state of Pennsylvania on LGBT issues and have advised teachers there to, again, exclude parents from these conversations. We've also seen similar things in California. And so, we've been filing these in school districts across the country to try and figure out, how many have these connections to transgender centers and what are these centers telling schools? So this is an ongoing investigation from Parents Defending Education. And like you had mentioned, why is this happening in Missouri? How is it happening in Missouri? We're looking everywhere because if there's one trend that we've seen from the past 2 years is, you're not safe regardless of where you live. If you're in the Midwest, just because you don't live on the coast doesn't mean that you're safe from this ideology in schools.
If you are just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Alex Nestor. She's an investigative fellow at Parents Defending Education Action. We're talking about a children's hospital here in Missouri that advised a school district not to require disclosure of students' chest binding to parents. I'd like to get in a little bit more detail about those centers that you were discussing, but before we move off of this topic specifically, Alex, talk to me a little bit about this situation. So chest binding, right? So what we're talking about here is young women who are, wrapping themselves up, essentially sort of corseting, but rather than sort of trying to appear more feminine, they're trying to appear more masculine. And there are some health risks associated with this. And a hospital is saying, don't tell parents.
Well, that's right. So what chest binders are, they come in different forms, but typically they are just a very tight sports bra-like undergarment that biological women use to appear more masculine if they want to, transition socially to being accepted as a man. They often wear these to flatten their chest. So that's what a chest binder is. And yeah, this gender clinic gave the school a document on, safe chest binder usage, which included on there that, these young women shouldn't be wearing them while participating in things like gym class because they are very tight and they could constrict, a child's breathing. So, and I'm not saying, there are tons of different types of chest binders out there, but, in this scenario, we are seeing that these kids are wearing some super, super tight undergarments that are causing them to faint in gym class. And, parents are not being informed about this. That's pretty insane coming from a doctor who, let's not forget, doctors are supposed to care for the health and well-being of all of their patients, and not hide things when kids are suffering physically from things like chest binders.
Who's behind these transgender centers? What are they all about? What's their ideology? Who's funding them?
So, these are popping up at hospitals across the country. It's pretty unclear if there's some, mass group that's funding them. But what we do know is a lot of these doctors, they go to similar sorts of conferences that, kind of have the same, guidance for them. And some of this guidance can stem from groups like the Human Rights Council or the Trevor Project. Both of those organizations explicitly say, in their model transgender guidance for schools that parents don't always need to be notified about when their child decides to live as the opposite sex in schools. So you have some of those organizations that influence a lot of the policies that gender clinics and that schools promote. But really, to me, what the most interesting thing is about the gender clinics is, one, how much they're popping up all over the country. Like the percent increase in the number of gender clinics is on the rise, as is the percent increase in minors receiving treatments that, we really don't have any long-term studies to show what these treatments are going to do to these kids when they're adults, when they're older. What we do know is that, in adults who transition, you often see issues with muscle mass, you see bone density issues, but there really isn't a lot to show for what happens to kids after they take hormones, after they transition sexes. So yeah, these gender clinics are popping up everywhere. Many of them, like this one, are pediatric transgender clinics. They're transgender clinics aimed, at children, at transitioning children, at giving them drugs to do so. And we really don't know the long-term effects of these, of these drugs, of these treatments.
You're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show. I'm speaking with Alex Nestor. She's an investigative fellow at Parents Defending Education Action. Alex, what is Parents Defending Education Action all about?
So Parents Defending Education is a nonpartisan grassroots organization of parents and advocates who want to eliminate, radical race and gender ideology from schools, eliminate political activism from schools. And really, we just want to restore education in America. And as you well know, over the past 2 years, our education system has really, just been on the decline. Like kids don't, they don't know reading, they don't know math. And we want to fix that. We want, parents to be involved in the process. We want schools to be transparent, and we want kids to receive a good education. That's what Parents Defending Education is all about.
So I imagine that you are personally concerned about how gender ideology is infecting our schools, but I'm curious, what your thoughts are. Other than perhaps some overarching conspiracy of leftists who are trying to indoctrinate our children, there's probably a lot of social pressure and peer pressure that's coming from other young people that is pushing them to want to commit these kinds of dangerous acts to their own body. These are bigger problems to solve than just through ideological think tanks and through freedom of information requests. We have a deeper cultural problem here, don't we, Alex?
I would say absolutely. And that has to do a lot with social media and kids being on TikTok on their phones all the time. Now more than ever, kids are attached to their phones. And that certainly wasn't, how I grew up. It wasn't how our parents grew up. It's really, we're sort of in like a different age, if you will, of how kids are growing up and what they're exposed to online. And I don't really think it's a conspiracy. It's just, how these algorithms sort of work online. They kind of filter kids into a certain topic that, okay, they spent 5 seconds watching this one video about a trans individual. And so, they received more videos like that in their feed. That's just kind of how the math works in this scenario. And I think that has a lot to do with the increase we're seeing in kids identifying as transgender and non-binary, and generally within the LGBT community.
Alex, is there anything else about this topic or anything else that you'd just like our listeners to know in general before we let you go today?
I just, want to go back to what we said at first. Like, this is happening everywhere. This is not just on the coast. And really just be informed and be aware of what's going on in your school. We have information on our website at defendinged.org on how to file Freedom of Information requests. And you can also reach out to us there if you have incidents to report. So I just really encourage parents and members of the community to get involved in their schools and know what's going on in your school district.
That's Alex Nestor. You can follow her on Twitter as well at Alex M. Nestor. We appreciate you very much for your time. Thank you for being so generous, and thanks for fighting the good fight for freedom. We appreciate you, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.